Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. Today, I'm here to talk about episode 6 of WandaVision, entitled All New Halloween Spooktacular. I think this might have been my favorite episode of the season so far. Just because I think that up to this point, I've been kind of wondering not what direction they're going in, but how things are going to play out as far as like episode by episode. So what I mean by that is, I'd say around episode 4 or so, when we kind of like started to understand everything, the reveals were they kind of like came in waves, right? So like at first we started to see things, like we saw the helicopter in, I think, the first or second episode. Obviously Wanda saw that as well, but once we hit that 4th episode, we started to see we started to learn a lot more. Then as things progressed, the people within the show started to learn more. When they brought in Darcy, when they brought in Wu, it's Wu, right? Yeah. When they brought in Wu, everyone starts to learn more. So by the end of the 5th episode, everything's pretty much out there for the most part. We as the fans, as the viewers, we have an idea of what's going on. The people within the show have an idea of what's going on. So now that the mystery's kind of gone, I was starting to wonder how they're going to manage to, at that point, I believe it's a 9-episode season, how they're going to manage to, I don't want to say stretch out the plot for 4 more episodes. That makes it sound like I feel like it doesn't really have any meat on it, but and I don't know what they're going to do, so I can't say that it doesn't have any meat on it. But I was starting to wonder what they were going to do in these final 4 episodes to kind of just like not stretch it out, but kind of like, give us extra show when we know what's going on and the people within that world and that universe know what's going on. So fast forward to this episode, I thought that they did a good job of finding a way to draw this out. And what they did was essentially they raised the stakes. Wanda extending the perimeter of Westview, that was a game changer. So that gives that there's all kinds of different ways they can play with that. They can, there's going to be the sword kind of response. We noticed that what's his face, who made himself very unlikable in this episode, he already seems to have it out for Wanda. And now he's going to have even more reason to. And then we also have, how is Monica going to respond to this? Because, Monica and Wu, because they were both about to go in there anyway. How are they going to respond to this? Actually, did they even go in? Because I try to watch the episodes twice, but I thought that they were going in. But then when they saw that it was the perimeter was extending, it looked like they were driving away from it. So maybe they're not in there. I can't really call at the moment if they're in there or not. But basically now Wanda looks like an aggressor, and in a bad way. So that's a good way to raise the stakes and kind of like see how does everyone respond who was formerly outside of Westview and now inside it, especially if they don't have any memory of non-Westview things. How's that going to play out? So I think that's pretty interesting. I thought they did a great job of raising the tension by doing that. So that was really exciting to watch. And then another thing that I liked about this episode was as we moved throughout the season, they started to bleed reality into fiction in a very interesting way. So like if you look at episode 1, that was all fiction. It was all, hey, we're in the world of 1950 sitcom, and that's just what this is. Fast forward to this episode 6, and we start off with kind of with like what looked to be like a Malcolm in the Middle kind of deal for the 90s, right? Right down to breaking the fourth wall, which I thought was a nice touch. And then you had, since it was Halloween, you had Wanda and Vision in their quote unquote costumes, which is just their comic book outfits, which I thought was, again, a nice touch. But as the episode progressed, we start to see, and I've talked about this reality bleeding in previous episodes, but I think we see it the most here because Pietro's presence adds an interesting dynamic, because we know as viewers that that's not the face of the Pietro that Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda would recognize. We also know that he seemingly doesn't have He's not under her control in any kind of way. He still has the same powers and skill set. He has a memory. He's cognizant of the fact that she's controlling these things. So it's kind of like, where does he come? Where is he coming from? Like, I don't know. There's still a lot to be explained about Pietro's appearance. And then also, I noticed this right away, but Pietro brought this up, which again was kind of like a good mesh of the fiction and the reality. Was where all these kids came from. Because immediately they cut to a scene where everyone's walking out in the street for Halloween, going trick or treating, and immediately I said out loud, "Where all these kids come from?" Because we just had in the last episode, Vision go, "Why are there no kids here?" Now all of a sudden there's kids everywhere. So I didn't know if they were going to actually like acknowledge that in a overt sort of way, or if that was something where it was just going to be like a thing where it's like, okay, those of you who are paying attention might catch this and look at this as another red flag potentially. But Pietro brings that up too, and I thought that like this is getting really interesting because now it's like you have Wanda controlling whatever it is that Wanda's controlling, which is essentially everything. But then you have the residents who simultaneously are actual people with real lives and the residents in this town that she's created. But then you have Pietro, who is like neither. Like, he's not like someone from the MCU reality, but he's also not someone who's under control of Wanda within this fictional place. So really, really interesting things they're doing with Pietro, and I'm curious to how that's going to play out. But I found all this to be incredibly interesting. I think they've really raised the stakes and the tension here. Vision, I'm still very confused as to how Vision exists. And once Vision proceeded to kind of like break through the Westview barrier, my immediate thought was he shouldn't be able to live out here. And sure enough, he wasn't. He started immediately deteriorating. So I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder how Vision places in this as well, because we know from the last episode that Wanda took his body, but we also know she doesn't have a Mind Stone. She could recreate him, and he could be as similar as possible to the Vision that we know from the films. But then why doesn't she have control over him? Why does he have his own free will essentially? And that's the part that kind of throws me off, because I'm like, if this isn't actual Vision, why does he seem to have the same skill set? He's not under her control, but he also he also doesn't have any memory of anything before Westview. So more intrigue as to like the role that Vision is gonna play and just who he is exactly. I'm very curious to see how Vision is gonna play out. Is Vision gonna last outside of this show? Like I don't really know. So I think they've found a way to close the book on a few questions and open the book on some others. So I think that's a good way to kind of like stretch this out. And again, I don't like to say stretch this out because it makes it sound like they don't have much material and they're like extending a thin script. And I don't know what that script looks like, so I wouldn't presume to say something like that. But I'm really curious to see how they're going to use the escalation that they brought in the episode 6 to extend this series to 9 episodes, because like it felt like after episode 5 that there shouldn't have been 4 episodes worth of material left. It kind of feels like, okay, 2 maybe. So again, good episode. Probably my favorite of the year, of the season, I should say. I just really liked how it blended the reality with the fiction, and that mixture is just becoming more and more difficult to decipher. And I find that intriguing. I actually let out a groan when the episode was over, because I'm like, man, she just extended the parameters and now you're just going to shut everything off? I'm like, yeah, motherfuckers turning the clowns and shit. Like, I want to know what happens. But yeah, good episode. So next week, be back with episode 7 review. I'm going to be watching Judas and the Black Messiah tonight. So there'll be a review for that coming tomorrow, which will be Saturday the 13th. UFC 258 takes place tomorrow night. It's a pay-per-view, so I'll be back with a fight talk on Sunday for that. And then Monday, I should have either a review of the entire Schitt's Creek series or maybe a review of that Britney Spears documentary that's on Hulu. So we'll see. But that's the next few days. what the plans are for those. So stay tuned. Lots of stuff coming. I have a whole lot more to share that I'm kind of keeping close to the chest right now until I can figure out a good rollout plan. So rate, comment, share, subscribe, all that good shit, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.